All right, so I'm out here with Mrs. Lookout. This is Erica Lunder. So this is your first time coming out to a prescribed fire, huh?
Yeah.
What are your impressions so far?
We've burned in the backyard before.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
It's pretty fun. I mean, I'm a gardener, so I like gardening and I like fire. It's kind of a combination of the two, seems like, because you get to use gardening tools and kind of move the leaves and sticks around, and then it's kind of like tending a fire because you're trying to get everything to burn well. Here, I mean, there's a lot of dirt and not too thick of a dust layer, so we've been trying to get things to burn. It's taking some effort.
Yeah. So what are a couple of things that you've seen today that maybe you didn't expect?
I guess how casual it is. Everyone's just kind of standing around. It's not stressful. It's feels very calm, which is nice.
You expect it to be a little more regimented and
A little more just like harried, like people running around and like but no one's freaking out, which is good. And everyone's been really friendly, and it's a little nerve-wracking because we have our kids here. But no one is scowling at us because we're not watching our kids right now. It's more a community feeling, so that's nice.
yeah. Well, I'm glad we got you out. Do you have an assignment right now?
Well, I'm supposed to be moving around fire with my pitchfork. If there's gaps in the burn, and we're trying to get a solid black surface here with everything burned, so I don't have a lot of work right now, but there's a gap right here I can burn.
We'll put you to work.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the things about this citizen burning is that the big objective is to train people and give them experience with burning. And so right now we're burning on a day where the conditions aren't very severe. And so they're almost not dry enough to really meet objectives of forestry. Like if we could burn this a little hotter and there was a little more fuel on the ground, we could kill a lot of these little baby trees that would maintain this fuel break
Right here, Brian,
from becoming a thicket again. But it's a safe day to burn. It's a good day for people who are beginners to get some experience with a torch and learning about how their ignition patterns affect fire behavior and things like that. So there's a trade-off there. If we were just doing this purely for resource management objectives, we'd probably be a little cool today. But on the other hand, we've got a couple dozen people out here, most of whom have never really done much with prescribed fire. We're getting hands-on torch time and learning how to work as a group to do projects like this. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. What's your name?
Mason.
Mason. I'm Zeke.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, you burned out here before?
No, it's my first time doing it.
All right. So what's your job right now?
Personally, or just right now?
Right now, what you're doing on the burn?
I'm just lighting.
You're firing crew?
Yeah, firing crew.
You a Cohasset?
Hey, what?
A local?
No, I'm from Marysville, California.
All right. How'd you hear about this?
Some friends of ours, their family ranch.
All right.
So, yeah.
So how's prescribed burning different from what you thought maybe it was?
A lot more controlled than I thought.
Yeah, he thought it was a bunch of hillbillies running around lighting shit on fire?
That's right.
We got the hillbillies here, but we're kind of organized, huh?
A little bit, yeah.
Got our briefing and our squads and everything.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Right on.
So, yeah, we're just cranking away.
Yeah. So what do you think, what would you want people out there in the wider world to know about prescribed burning and what we're doing here?
There's a lot more to take into think about.
Uh-huh.
Underground stuff, stumps in the ground, trees that could easily light on fire, stuff that you don't want burned. We got that campsite right there that we're keeping from getting away from us.
Uh-huh.
So Yeah, there's a lot more to think about.
Yeah. Well, cool. You're out here. Thanks for being on the firing crew.
Always.
All right.
I'm Kate.
And what's your job?
I work for the Butte County Resource Conservation District. I'm an AmeriCorps member, so that means that I get to help out with prescribed fire and work with the Prescribed Burn Association, the PBA here in Butte County.
All right.
And today I'm holding the water pump, so just helping out, getting some of the cedars to not torch.
All right. And is this your second burn?
It is my second, yep.
All right. So how is this different from what you maybe thought burning was like maybe before you tried it?
Yeah, well, today especially too, it's like it's a cooler day, so like burning when it's not super hot, dry conditions. That's what like my first burn was. So just like having to put more fire on the ground than I was expecting. Yeah, I have like reservations, like, oh, I don't want to just like get out of control or something, so I don't want to like do too much. But you got to kind of work with the weather conditions and what's out here and adjust to it. So that's been cool to learn something new with different conditions today.
Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about the PBA and the RCD and what those two acronyms mean?
Yeah, so the RCD is the Resource Conservation District, so Butte County has a Resource Conservation District. We do a lot of helping both private and like public landowners. So with the PBA, that stands for Prescribed Burn Association. So private landowners can come to us wanting to burn their land, and we kind of will go out to them and kind of get them set up for that. So, and there's a lot of people that are associated with the Prescribed Burn Association. So like when someone is ready to burn their land, a call will go out, and it's kind of like a mass email, and we'll get as many people as we can. A lot of the community members are just volunteers. They're not like certified firefighters, which is awesome. So we're just like getting a ton of people out learning about fire who have like very varied knowledge of what like prescribed fire is.
All right. So I'm out here on Maple Creek Ranch with Ron Ward, who's one of the family members here. And how many acres are we burning right now?
Between yesterday and today, we're going to burn about 11 to 12 acres.
All right. And can you tell me a little bit about how you came to this place with prescribed burn where we're getting fire on the ground and using it to protect your home and your forest?
Yeah, about a year, going back a few years, we've done a lot of work with the NRCS and done some equip work to do the thinning, and it was a good opportunity to not just to finish up the thinning with the prescribed burn. And Dan Tavener at the NRCS introduced me to Wolfie from the BRCD, I think I'm getting that right, who has been an amazing help to me, basically helping us scope out burn units, helping mobilize people and getting people involved in doing training on our ranch, as well as kind of following through. So I really could not have done it without, certainly without Wolfie's involvement through this whole process. Been great. And some other great team members that she's introduced to us has been phenomenal.
So have you all burned out here before?
This is our first prescribed burn. We've done a lot of brush pile burning, tons of brush pile burning, but not a prescribed burn.
So did you have some nerves going into it about putting fire on the ground?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm nervous about some of the standing trees, because we do log, when the conditions are right. But it seems like we feel pretty good about how we're not going to have a lot of tree mortality here.
So was it difficult to get permits and to make all that part happen?
No, it was again with help from Wolfie. She kind of helped guide through the process. I think if you didn't have somewhat of a guide or somebody to help you, it's probably a little more difficult, just kind of going through the ropes. But it actually ended up being pretty smooth.
Great. Yeah, I guess that's the whole intention of the PBA, right? Is to remove barriers for people like yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I think that if you were just by yourself looking at a government website, trying to figure out how to get through it and get to the point where we are today, including the permitting as well as getting resources, it would be a difficult task. So I think it's been very helpful.
So what's something that you've seen in the last 2 days of burning here that you didn't expect that would happen? I
don't know if there's anything that not necessarily that I guess the one thing that I was amazed at is the number of people that have showed up to help. You know, there was more resources than I would have ever expected coming from several parts of Northern California to help. So that was a huge surprise. I think the actual burn, the conditions were perfect, and so there wasn't anything that kind of got out of hand that was like a shocker. So that's probably about right.
All right. So I've talked to a few people that they're kind of surprised by the level of coordination and organization that we apply on projects like this.
Yes.
Can you talk a little about like having people like Miller Bailey show up and kind of?
Yeah. So Miller Bailey and Aaron, the level of organization and structure that they put in place. Some of it, if you don't know any better, like why are we doing all of this planning and et cetera, but it really does pay off in terms of having a structure, a hierarchy, a plan, assigning people specifically what they need to do, you know, in different areas of the work, both from a safety perspective of knowing that you've got this team and you need to make sure where they are in proximity, as well as just getting the work done, because it is some managed chaos. You got a group of people that have come together, they don't know each other. Some of them have got a lot of burn experience and some don't. So kind of plugging them into a structure and a plan has been very effective. And Miller is certainly really good. Miller and I were both burn bosses for this because I'm the landowner. Yeah. But I've been able to learn a lot. I think we'll be able to do some of smaller stuff on our own now, kind of witnessing his structure and plan.
Yeah. I think it's an important thing that people know about these, what the prescribed burn associations are all about, is that we're really using the PBAs to provide structure. Yeah. And that when people hear that a landowner's burning this, that they need to recognize that the landowners are now getting trained in the same command structure that we use on wildland fire. Yeah. And that it's not really just a bunch of hillbillies running around lighting the woods on fire.
No, I think you're right. I think, you know, these sort of things we've posted on our local Facebook pages as well as community emails. So if you're sitting over there on some other ridge on Cohasset, you might really be concerned about, well, what are they? Do they really know what they're doing? Yeah. And probably most people don't know how well organized and what the whole plan is. Getting the word out and educating people obviously is one of you guys' big mandates and objectives. Very important.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate the opportunity. You know, I feel like with these PBAs, you know, it takes someone like yourself who's done the prep work to create fairly low complexity fuels. Yes. You know, you've done thousands of hours of work here to make this happen.
Yeah, we have thinned since 2015. We've thinned probably 150 acres. All of that in partnership with the NRCS. And to your point, where we're burning today, just 2 years ago, was a thicket of manzanita and brush. So we would not have been able to do a prescribed burn without that prep work. And back then I didn't know that I was prepping for this potential outcome. Right? Yeah. We were just trying to reduce fire danger. And our property was sitting on 500 acres, is a strategic part of Cohasset, because we are trying to reduce fire danger for the broader community as well as obviously for ourselves and our force. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you're providing us kind of a sandbox, you know, and that I like to say fire's the best teacher. Yeah. And so giving people a safe place to spend time with it, that's really the most important thing about getting this work done.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that back to some of your questions of maybe no longer a surprise is just the particular with Miller and Aaron, their focus on weather, on humidity, on conditions, on ensuring that we're in the zone of those conditions that we've said we can work within. And if we start to get out of those, then it's let's slow down, potentially call a halt to it. I think that's really good practice. Yeah. To have everything identified in front, and when things start to fall out, to be ready, have your contingency plan in place to kind of wrap things up and wrap things up.
Yeah, we call that turning it off.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks so much for having us out here, Ron.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, so the firing boss's job here is just to look at what the wind's doing and look at the terrain and figure out a sequence to fire this that gets this corner burned in, because corners are kind of tricky, because if you just bring fire down this line and then start running strips out here, if you suddenly get a lot of wind and you have not a lot of depth on your burning here, then it can spot across your line. So the whole idea is that right now we're taking this fire line that's 8 feet wide, and we're using fire to remove fuel out 20 or 30 or 40 feet to make the fire line really wide. Once we got the fire line nice and wide here, then we can start lighting with the idea of creating more intensity out there. But you always kind of take your time in the beginning to use fire to make your fire lines wider.
My name is Eric Apland. I live in Chico, and I'm here helping out with this burn as the firing boss today.
All right. So what's your day job?
I work for the U.S. Forest Service in my day job. But,
So that's why you have to come out here and burn on your days off, because
No,
you don't
not
get to burn at work.
not at all. No. It's really cool to be out here on other people's land with the community and help them do prescribed fire for their objectives.
So you're here as a volunteer.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is this your first time burning with a PBA?
No, but I haven't done it much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did a burn in Genesee Valley, a year ago, I want to say. But other than that, I haven't really had an opportunity. So this is my first time down here in Butte County.
All right. So what did it take for you to become a firing boss? What does that mean when you're like as an official firing boss? Like what kind of process did it take for you to become qualified?
Yeah, no, it took several years. I can't remember exactly how many, but I had to go through the process of starting as a firefighter type 2. Then I became a squad boss. After that, I became a crew boss. And then at that point, once I had been running a crew for a bit, then I got experience in firing on both wildfires and prescribed fires. And then after a few years of doing that, I got that qualification signed off maybe 3 years ago,
All right.
something like that. So yeah, it can take quite a while. It sort of depends on your career trajectory and what kind of career you're on or what you're doing. But
So we're out here with what 20 or 30 volunteers doing this kind of semi-low complexity, moderate complexity underburn. What do you think that is the best thing that us, fire professionals can bring to these types of endeavors?
that's a good question. Well, the obvious answer, right, is just our experience, and being able to point out things that wouldn't be necessarily obvious to someone who's just getting into this, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think also though, having had that wide variety of experience, kind of being able to hopefully guide people, not just individuals on the ground, but sort of overall, and maybe what good objectives might look like, what success looks like on some of these different landscapes.
So what are the objectives on this burn today? Like what are we trying to accomplish with this fire we're putting on the ground?
In particular on this one, it's wildfire hazard reduction, right? And part of that is getting rid of a lot of this. You see, there's a lot of like brush that some of it's been cut, and then there's all this dead fuel that's been cut. It was also masticated at some point in the past, a few years ago, it looks like.
So that means they ground up the brush?
Yeah, exactly. And you can kind of see it's sort of here and there all over the place, is kind of like shredded brush. So this isn't a first entry. This is, I'm not sure how many entries, but obviously it's been treated before, but now it's getting rid of some of the residue of past treatments, basically, and reducing the fuel loading in here. And also reducing some of the number of conifer seedlings.
In small trees, just so it kind of stays open and doesn't turn into a thicket.
Yeah, exactly. Which in some places it wants to do. So, yeah.
So what's your specific job here as the firing boss? Like during the course of the day, what are you doing kind of minute to minute?
Minute to minute, I would be checking in with my lighters here and making sure everything is looking good with what they're doing. If there's anything that needs to be adjusted slightly, like a pattern or spacing or timing or something like that, talking about that. Then also going ahead and seeing what's coming up and how we're going to potentially adjust the pattern or adjust the number of lighters maybe for what's coming. So, and then going back as well and seeing how things came together. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the difference between your job and the burn boss's job?
So as a firing boss, my only real responsibility is to the ignitions of the unit, right? That's my primary job. the burn boss has to ultimately, he is responsible, or they are responsible both for making sure that the unit is lit in a way that matches the objectives for the unit, but also that you have holding resources that make sure that everything stays within the confines of the unit, and doing stuff like this, knocking down some intensity to make sure we don't kill trees we don't want to kill. And so, the holders here they work for the holding boss.
Okay.
But both firing boss and holding boss, we work for the burn boss. So the burn boss sort of oversees the whole operation.
All right. So how are you finding it? You work in a really structured environment with, on federal fire crews in a big organization. How are you finding it to work with, 20, 30 volunteers, a lot of whom who have no fire experience?
I mean, honestly, it's not that different. I mean, there's some, it's a little different, but I would say that even within the federal service, unless you have a group of people that really are all highly experienced, which isn't always the case, with just the makeup of our crews at any given time, there's still a lot of mentoring, a lot of guidance, a lot of the role of the burn boss is exactly this. Or I'm sorry, the burn boss, but in my case, the role of the firing boss is exactly the same.
Uh-huh.
Going ahead, looking at what's burning, looking at how it's doing. It's not honestly all that different.
Well, it seems like a lot of people might not understand when they hear about Landowner burning that we're using the incident command system and that we've got
Exactly.
Full kind of fire organization in place here.
Yeah, no, that's right. Which that sort of contains any sort of chaos that might naturally be generated by 30 people just coming together. But that ICS system I mean, everybody has their span of control. Everybody has their job. Everybody knows who they report to.
Huh.
Yeah, it sort of containerizes everything.
Great. Well, I'll let you get back to fire and boss, but thanks for coming out and volunteering and helping this whole thing run.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
All right.
Nice talking.
You too. Can I do a quick interview?
Oh gosh, yeah.
All right. What's your name?
I'm Hannah Hefner.
What's your job?
On this fire,
What do you do for a living?
I'm the program manager for the Plumas County Fire Safe Council.
All right. And so is this part of your work?
Fortunately, I get to say that it is. Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you guys got started with prescribed fire at the Fire Safe Council?
Sure. Well, I haven't been at the Fire Safe Council for 6 years. Prior to that, I think our council pretty well established that it was a useful tool. And so when I showed up, we had the opportunity to just start engaging with the tool. And a few of us went to a Northern California Prescribed Fire Council meeting and started learning more about PBAs. And there was a group of people within the council who really wanted to see that happen in Plumas County. So that was about 4 years ago.
So has your program been growing since then?
We just had a prescribed burn yesterday with at least 30 people that are members of the Plumas Underburn Co-op, our PBA. And, that is just a sign of the momentum from the 3 or 4 folks who really got it
Who started it.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you guys doing about liability?
The liability is really the responsibility of the landowner. And so we all sign waivers that essentially say that. And it's up to the landowner to have the proper insurance either through a burn boss or themselves or no insurance.
Just do it. Yeah.
So that's how we deal with it.
And so how did you guys get tied in here with the Butte PBA? What's the relationship between the two organizations?
We got linked up mostly through the Trex events, realizing that the window in the spring was really a great training opportunity in Plumas County and the fall in Butte County. And so sharing resources, sharing, planning and time into those efforts. And so that's how we hear about the PBA events.
All right. And then do you guys have some equipment that you've been able to get?
Yeah, we have a UTV with a slip-in unit, which is 40 gallons.
We have a tool trailer with a bunch of hand tools, a bunch of hose. Yeah,
So who's funding that?
that was funded with by CAL FIRE primarily.
All right.
Yeah.
So do you work more with CAL FIRE or with the Forest Service directly with your burns in Plumas County?
Yesterday was the first time that we have had CAL FIRE presence on one of our PBA burns, and that was great. Forest Service, consistently individuals show up that have experience through the Forest Service, but they're there as citizens helping. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to see that we can kind of, even though we all want rain, that we can kind of take advantage of this January burn window.
Yeah.
And so you said you actually burned in Plumas County, and
Yeah.
you had a couple feet of snow a month ago.
Yeah. I was amazed how well it consumed yesterday, but I mean, the concerning thing is that the heavies were consuming as well. But yeah.
So as you scale up, do you have a vision of like how big of units you'd want to be burning? You know, like do you see a potential that you could burn like a couple 100 acres along Chandler Road and these south-facing kind of oak and pine stands?
Yeah, a lot of what the focus is on now is establishing anchors to be able to do things like that along Chandler Road in particular. But I think our focus is going to be on how many burns we can accomplish as opposed to how many acres.
Yeah.
Because there are just some really complex units out there that need to burn, and we want to tackle them.
And what do you think, you know, what's the biggest obstacle right now to you achieving that scale?
I think partially it's the fuel condition. Partially it is pretty limited burn windows in some locations.
Do you feel like you have strong public support in Plumas County?
I think there's a mix. I think it's variable, but I'm yet to hear complaints from the public about the burns we've been doing.
Great. Well, thanks so much for doing the work.
Thank you.